Hi, my name is Joyce Guy. I am one of the officers and treasurer of the Black Association of Documentary Filmmakers West. It's called BADWest. Yeah. And we are here in Los Angeles, and we are a collective of Black documentary filmmakers in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Come on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have monthly meetings, we do free screenings, and we have an event every year called Day of Black Docs where we screen films like this, and so check us out. But today, we're here to talk to, oh my God, Ashley Osei and Bella Boss.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm gonna moderate this. I'm gonna open it up to questions and answers. Before we get started, I have a whole bunch of questions I wanna ask. In the film, we kind of have an idea about Bella and her life story. And I know that you went to Northwestern, and that's when your activism started. So can you, because I don't know, maybe some of you already know, but can you give us your background and what made you become a filmmaker? You know, what are your roots and the whole thing? So that would be my first question, and I have some other questions that kind of relate to that.
Yeah. Oh, is this working? Can y'all hear me? Is this working?
Okay, cool.
Okay, they're working. Yeah, so I've been making films since I was 14 years old. I became interested, right before going to high school, and really nurtured it throughout that time before I went to Northwestern, and kind of found out like, oh, there's like people behind the screen that like create the images that we see. And so for me, I've always been someone who's really interested in process, that's really interested in like what makes people up and what experiences bring them to who they are. And so while I was at Northwestern, I was like really focusing on my technical skills as a cinematographer and just making these like super Black films in at film school and be like, they just giving me A's because like they were scared to to go against what I was presenting. So once I left Northwestern, I had really started to build this love of like critically acclaimed documentaries and like the idea of being able to frame reality and the people that we see in our everyday. And that just happened to coincide with the time that young Black people in Chicago were continuing to organize around the killing of Rekia Boyd. And so for me, like as I was looking out onto the scene, I didn't see anyone really like taking the time and care to really observe the journey that these leaders were going through, that these young Black queer women were going through, and being very intentional about centering their identities in a way that we had never seen in Black social movement. We always knew the presence of Black women, but was often never seen in how we learn about that. So I just felt like someone needed to turn the lens on to them, and I could really relate to them because I was a young Black woman at the time as well. I was fresh out of school. And so just watching their courage and the way that they were fighting for these issues really felt like I should just follow them and see what happens.
And how did it come about that you chose Bella and Janae? How did that process happen?
I mean, look at me.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, that, but how did you come upon these two
Yes.
incredibly vocal women?
Yeah, so Janae was actually already a leader in Black Youth Project 100 in Chicago. And she was the first person I reached out to and just kind of gave me a yes, wanting to help another Black woman through like post-school. But then I found out she was going through this PhD program. She was 24 years old. And I was just like, that's a lot to try to balance while you're making these like major strides in the organizing space. And so I just initially started following her, being like, oh, this is gonna be a little cute, like short 10, 15-minute film. And then the tape of the killing of Laquan McDonald came out. And that was like a touch point moment in the city. And it just felt like, okay, this is way bigger than what I expected it to be. And so I met Bella shortly after she performed, after the police superintendent was forced to resign. And yes, I mean, look at her. But it was just so much power and so much just electricity coming from this woman. And once I found out, about her family's long history on the west side of Chicago, I just felt like it was like the perfect balance to what I was already filming with Janae.
So we don't see that in the film, but did your lives ever intersect, or were you part of the same movements, or how did that ever happen?
Yeah, so in the very first scene, the Black Brunch, that's the only scene in the film where me and Janae are in the same room, in the same space. But that's not the only scene in our lives.
Okay.
We've been in the same room, in the same space. We were actually in the same room during one of the Let Us Breathe.
Mm-hmm.
That was Janae's introduction, and that scene, but you just, it's way things are edited. So I'm there. We're like we're there. Chicago had so many different organizations organizing around the same issues, and what was beautiful was that we were all coming together. And it really wasn't about what organization you were with. It was, what do you want to do? What do you want to happen? And what's your role in that? So, Janae was showing up as a member of BYP 100. I was showing up as, at the time, a member of the Let Us Breathe collective. But a lot of our work intersected. So, yeah,
Okay.
we were co-leading protests together very often. Yeah.
I mean, can you give your assessment of Lori Lightfoot?
Yeah, so I write a monthly column for a Black digital news publication in Chicago called The Tribe. The Tribe is spelled with 2 I's. And I interviewed Mayor Lori Lightfoot for her 2-year midterm anniversary. So if you really want to know how I feel about how she's doing as mayor, you could go take an in-depth read of my assessment of that.
Can you tell us?
Yeah, so on a national stage, Mayor Lori Lightfoot presents herself as a very progressive Black queer woman mayor. And because it is a first, because she is the first Black queer woman mayor of Chicago, then that alone is what is uplifted in the media about who she is, and not what she does and what her impact is on Black queer women in Chicago, or what that representation is supposed to mean to us, given that we are the very women who were leading this moment and saying, this is not the leadership that we want.
Right.
All right, so she has stayed very true to who she is. Who she was then is very much so who she is now as mayor. And it's just a moment for us to recognize what we are doing when we are elevating people just because they check off boxes that we think we need in this moment. We not rooting for everybody Black. We rooting for the revolutionaries and the revolutionaries only.
The one thing I love about this film is one of the great themes is family. I mean, you really touch upon both Bella and Janae's family, and both of you have unique families, strong families. It seems like Janae, her activism started from her father that you talked about, and Bella, if I'm not wrong, it seems like the activism that seemed to spark you was the fact that your mother and your father were imprisoned. Can you further talk about how that shaped your life, and as a raptivist, as an organizer and all that stuff, and I have another question. I have 2 questions. So that question, how did that shape your life? And how is the Sister Surviving Network, how is that going?
Yeah, okay, so to the first part of that question, my story is not very different than a lot of Black women, a lot of Black people in this country. All right, so my parents' incarceration, my cousin who has been incarcerated, wrongfully convicted for all of my life, to this day. You know, my brother, who is currently incarcerated, who y'all heard me saying, like, the least I can do is answer his call. I'm really struggling today with the fact that I missed 4 calls from him. You know, so it's stuff like that, right? Like, it's things that have just been so embedded in my life that I didn't even know was making me an activist. I didn't know that, you know, I just care. I have to care about this because it's my life, because it's my family. I don't have a choice but to care. And Janae is very much the same. Like, she wasn't even talking about her father really in that scene. It's how it's edited, but she was talking about her uncle, who was her mother's brother, and her grandfather had been in prison, her uncle, cousins, you know, so she had experienced this generational criminalization of her family as well, and so many of us experienced that. And you know, I'm just one of the people where I'm like, come on, man, what you mean you finna take my brother? Like, who are you? Under whose authority? I don't care about this robe you got on looking dumb, this gavel. Like, I don't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all kidnapping my brother. All right, so I just think the way I think. I just perceive the world the way I perceive the world. So that's what makes me move in the world and move through the world the way that I do. And how is the Sister Survivor Network going? The first woman I gave a care package to as the Sister Survivor Network, I was delivering care packages to Black women who have been impacted by the carceral system. The first woman I gave a care package to is in a theater in LA right now watching this movie in films. Quit playing with us. Quit playing with us. How we doing? We gonna be all right.
Good. I heard a conversation. I listened to sometimes when I'm in the car early. I listened to Dr. Melina Abdullah. She has a show at 7 a.m. on KPFK, and she was having a conversation with this man who was incarcerated. And he was talking about Black activism and Black protest. And one of the questions not a question, but he said, you know, from his viewpoint, he said, where are the men in Black activism? Because all he's seeing are women. So my question is, what is the face of Black activism today and where is it going? Either one of you.
Girl, why I gotta start? You want me to? I feel like, okay, I'll let you take it home. I'm gonna be brief. I think what makes it so difficult to give a face to Black activism is I think at this moment, you know, they describe themselves as a leaderful moment, not a leaderless moment. And so I think because of the way we've always perceived Black social movement, we always think we need to have this one central figure, usually male figure, that holds all the theory and perspective and idea of where we're going. And this movement today goes way beyond those limitations. And so that's why it was so important that we, you know, even though this film is just about Janae and Bella, it's also representative of so many other Black women, Black queer folks, trans folks in Chicago that have been organizing deeply for years, and just haven't been given the space to center their identity and their struggle and the work that they're doing. So I think it's hard to pin it down right now, but it's because we're, you know, finally being fully inclusive of every Black person and not just a certain perspective or identity.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. Every face in here that is Black is the face of the Black liberation struggle, the Black liberation movement. Blackness is not a monolith, right? So to say where are the men, it's like we are continuing a story. Like this is the Black Lives Matter movement, right? But this is also the civil rights movement. This is also the movement to abolish slavery, right? We are a continuum, right? So we are not. Black men, this is us centering ourselves is a response to the question, where are the black women? Where are the black women? You know, for so long, and that was never a public question that we asked, right? We just decided, I'm gonna make the film. I'm going to make the film because we don't see it, right? Like, black people, black women have been involved in the black liberation struggle. We have been the face of the black liberation struggle, the black liberation movement, since there was a black liberation movement, right? So it doesn't mean that we are erasing black men. We cannot erase black men, right? We just, decentering is not erasure, right? You can tell a bigger story. You can tell a bigger story, and it's okay. No one gets left out, right? Like, every story matters. We telling our story. If you want to see another story, you could go see another story.
But is there resistance with queer women leadership?
Absolutely. Did y'all see the scenes at the
Right.
protests where the men kept taking the mic
Yes,
from
I
the
noticed
women?
that.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole thing. Man, this is no cute like struggle, right? Like, when we talk about abolishing ideologies and changing behavior, right? Like, that is real conflict. And we are not running away from conflict. We are embracing conflict and saying that there's conflict anyway. There's conflict anyway. So if I'm gonna fight for something, I'm gonna fight for my life. I'm gonna fight for my sisters. I'm gonna fight for my brothers. I'm gonna fight for the trans people in my community, because they in my community. Because this is my community.
There was something in the film that struck me when you were talking about that gang culture taught you leadership and organizational skills. When we think about gang culture, again, we go back to that it's very male and it's patriarchy. So how do you reconcile that with women leadership, queer leadership? How do you blend the two of those together?
They were never separate from me.
Okay.
Like, the gang culture that I'm talking about, my grandmother was a queen pin on the west side of Chicago. She went from sharecropper to queen pin. So I'm talking about black women when I'm talking about leaders of the gang culture too. I'm talking about is people in prison who whole male prisons that have pictures of my grandmother up on the wall, and when somebody do something in violation, you gotta go pray and ask my grandmother for forgiveness.
Hello?
Like, and today is her birthday, you know? So these are the type of leaders that I'm talking about. Like, these are the type of matriarchs that really took men who were considered monsters and helped mold them into monarchs and helped mold entire communities, right? Like, so when we talk about leadership being stripped, I'm not just talking about men when I talk about gang culture.
Okay. Thank you. I want to go back to filmmaking and for a minute, and I'll come back to that because your B-roll was impeccable.
Come on, let's talk about
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
just
talk
the birds and I mean, just that scene was that was just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, a
You
couple.
did
I mean, just beautiful. Where did you get the beginning of the film? You had some archival footage in Chicago. Where did you get that? Was that family footage, or was that your footage, or where did you get that from?
No, Chicago just has an amazing film archival history, and so for a very long time we were kind of like grabbing archival images from like the Black Power movement, Civil Rights movement from across the U.S., and then we like showed people, and they were like, "Y'all gotta show Black people." It was Yvonne Wobin, who you might know.
Okay.
Yeah, our executive producer. She was like, "You need to show Black people in Chicago." So the Chicago Film Archives. There's also the Southside Home Movie Project at U Chicago that literally gathers people's home movies from Black Chicagoans, which is a lot of what we're seeing in the film. And we just yeah, we just really wanted to give that dedication to Black life in Chicago, because I think often the way Chicago's perceived in the media is very violent and very sensational. But like, if you've ever spent 6 months in Chicago, there's so many things to love about it, especially the Black community. So we really, yeah, like Summertime Shy, that's the only reason y'all should come. Don't come in the winter, but there's just so many beautiful things about Black life in Chicago, so we wanted to really pay homage to that.
Okay. I have another question. It seems like I just love the way that you kind of, the film took over over the course of
4.5 years.
4.5 years, and you didn't do this thing where you put a date. This happened on this date, whatever, and things kind of moved seamlessly. We just saw the changing of the hairstyles.
You weren't supposed to see that.
No, but it was great because it kind of gave us an idea of a flow of where things were going.
Yeah.
For me, I really loved it. So, and but your style was, you let things breathe.
Yeah.
You did not rush things. So how did you develop your style, or how did that develop, or was it just like, okay, but there was a, we were able to breathe throughout the film?
It really, we got there through the struggle, honestly. I had done a good number of short films before I did Unapologetic, but I had never fathomed the scale of a feature-length film, where originally we were like, let's just pack it with all the action, all the protests, all the campaigns. And then people just had fatigue. So they were like, no, we really care about these two women that you have presented. And I was like, oh, okay, that means we gotta spend another 3 years on it. But I think I really wanted it to feel like, if your best friend made a movie about you, I wanted it to feel like all of these moments that you would pull out of a good friend's life, because there's so much more than the movement, as you see in the film. They have families and passions and turn-ups and all these things that we all do. So we really just knew we had to integrate those moments, because we've already been so traumatized by images of Black death in the media. So it was like, okay, we're gonna present this really difficult thing, but we have to remember the joy that's within that.
We're gonna open it up for a quick second. I just have, so Bella, so where are you now in terms of your activism and your art and your raptivism? Where are you, where are things taking you now?
I was on a Golden Globes Instagram page today.
Y'all are so funny.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I still get to do a lot of beautiful work with a lot of beautiful people, and because of the uprisings last year, I've been able to reach a lot of people who are just now kind of being introduced to the abolitionist movement, to defund the police movement, to the movement for Black lives, and bringing them into their work and having a framework or a political philosophy to bring people up under and to introduce people to. So in Chicago, we are leading a campaign to defund the Chicago Police Department and to invest funding from the Chicago Police Department into Black communities, into mental health care, into rehabilitation centers, into education, into us. Yeah. So we have, we don't get to the moment, we don't get to the uprisings around George Floyd and around Breonna Taylor without the uprisings around Laquan McDonald and Rekia Boyd, right? It is all a continuum, it is all organizing, it is all just setting a pathway and creating more pathways for people to reach the movement, right? To find their way here, to find their way to inspiration where they can see a different world, a different system, a different idea of what safety could mean for us, and to plug into organizations that are doing work to actually get us there, that are taking steps to get us there. So yeah, it's all about connectivity. It's all about just keep going, keep bringing people into the movement. And you never know, like, who you are inspiring and what people are capable of contributing to the movement, right? Like, when I was going out to rap at these rallies, I didn't know Ashley O'Shea was in the crowd, right? Being inspired the way that she was being inspired, right? And the people in this room and what we are inspired to do, who we are inspired to become. It's about us seeing us. It's about us seeing us and us seeing a vision for us that makes sense, that feels right, that feels like we can exist, we can thrive, we can be so much more than what they told us is acceptable.
Ashley O'Shea, what is your next project?
Oh God, okay. So yeah, I am currently developing a docuseries about my family patriarch, who's from Tuskegee and Mobile, Alabama. He raised 17 children.
I'm an Alabama girl too.
Okay, let's do it.
Montgomery.
Connectivity.
Yes, but yeah, raised 17 children, all who went off to college and kind of became the first wave of the black middle professional class.
Look
from
at
very
them.
poor and rural. There's some of them in the crowd today. So, so yeah, I'm really leaning into this Black archive and preserving our stories, because my grandpa passed away in 2019, and I regretted what I wasn't able to gain from him. So I'm gathering what I can while folks are still here.
Exactly. Okay, so do we have any questions? Yes. The gentleman, if you can speak. Oh, yeah, with the white shirt on.
Hello, my name is Christian.
Hey, Christian.
Thank you so much. In a second, I just have to go put money on my meter, so I'm just asking and leaving. But my question is, what I found great skill was the comfort and authenticity of your subject. So outside of just having really authentic and vibrant subjects, how did you get the participants to be so comfortable with the camera in the space, because you captured such honest and deep moments?
Yeah, it took some work. It took some work. I think, like I said, Janae was the first yes that I got. So I think with Janae, that was when I really was able to start exploring this idea of like a more coming of age personal story. Like filming that scene with her and her roommate, Alexis, was like the first at-home scene I got, and I was like, oh, this is like reminding me of like my black girlfriends that helped me with my makeup. And I felt like I needed to lean into that more. But then I met Bella, and although, I felt like I kept capturing amazing performance scenes and public scenes with Bella, I was like, no, I'm like trying to get up in your house. And she was like, she thought I was the feds apparently, so. So that just took some nourishing, that took some patience. Bella has told me that, when your mom told you that I had a good spirit because your mom doesn't trust anybody. So that was like year 3 or something around there.
It took time.
Yeah, but it just like, I think a lot of times in documentary spaces, folks are so extractive and just kind of fly in and out of people's lives. So I really was like, no, I'm going to show my investment in you beyond what we're filming, what shows up in a movie theater, because, I want to be invested in your work, for as long as I can, so.
Can I just have like a small little addition to that? I'm so sorry. I just want to know specifically the moment when someone slid into your DMs. That was like, and I wonder for you, how are you to be so transparent with the camera in your face about it? So beautiful.
I think I'm the coolest motherfucker. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, capture me. What you mean? Like,
Anybody else?
No, Bella, I'm sorry, I'm Tanya, but to your point, being the coolest in my friend, your energy throughout the show was very electric, right? How do you maintain your energy after protesting and being in a fight? How do you unpack that and get back to self?
Whew. God be working on me. God be working on me. Yeah, I recharge when I'm alone. But I don't know, I go into the world knowing that, like, how you show up matters. Right? So whatever I'm going through, it just helps me understand that the people in the rooms with me, the people walking the path, you know, like, everybody going through something. Right? So kindness eases pain. It's just I just have a calling. You know, I just have a calling and I answer the call.
You walking in it.
I appreciate it.
Okay, we gotta run. I just have one quick question about that. When that policeman pushed you,
Child.
how did you hold it together?
I didn't. I absolutely didn't. Community healed. Community healed. Community healed me. Like, I was depressed during most of this filming, right? So that's what led me to put my body on the line in that type of way, right? Like, I was already going through so much. Anger just felt better than depression, right? Like, I'd rather be sitting here about to fight this big, goofy, dumb pig looking. You know, I'd rather do that than just be in the house crippled with pain like I can't do. Today is my grandmother's birthday. My grandmother had just passed when she actually started filming this. And my grandmother raised me while both my parents were pretty, you know, so that's my heart. That's my everything, you know. So losing her, I was just real upset. So I really, like, yeah, at the moments, that's why I say, like, you know, I'm feeling like this, and you're gonna try me today. So I really didn't hold it together in that moment, but the community held me. So I was really, like, ready to fight the police officer, like, you know, even though I know how they coming, I know they don't have a problem killing us for nothing, you know, like, I was really like, okay, yeah, because not you just called me out my name, sir. I'm not one of them. Okay. So, yeah, it was people who, like, grabbed me and then, like, got between me and the police officer, put their bodies on the line. A lot of my friends got arrested. I watched police officers punch black women in the face, right? Like, it was a lot. It was a lot. And we held each other.
Thank you. That's our evening, and I want to thank everybody in LA for coming out on a Friday night. Santa Monica, that's a commitment. And can we give an applause to Bella Boss and Ashley O'Shea for this wonderful film. Unapologetic. Tell your friends to come tomorrow. You have a whole week for the screening to be here. And again, thank you, and thank you guys for coming out